Great. Oh, record.
No, it's already.
Yeah. I saw Alex's face, and immediately, where's the record button? Here?
Mark is supposed to remind you.
Oh, yeah. Well, he did twice earlier, but that was at 9 o'clock.
That shows you timing's everything.
Trying to get, oh, here it is, recording.
It's already recording.
It's already recording. Oh, thank you, Alex. He took care of it. Okay. K17, I think I don't exaggerate when I say that I think, and this is my personal opinion, this is the most important koan in the entire Buddhist canon.
Wow.
I'm going to make that declaration.
You've built up the expectations.
I know. K17, Hogan's Hair's Breadth. Preface to the Assembly. Paired geese beating the ground with their wingtips fly up high. A pair of wood ducks stands alone at the edge of a pond. Leaving aside the matter of arrow points meeting head on, what about sawing on a steel counterweight? Main case. Attention. Hogan asked Administrator Monk Shuzan, if there's even a hair's breadth of difference, heaven and earth are clearly separated. How do you understand this? Shuzan replied, if there's even a hair's breadth of difference, heaven and earth are clearly separated. Hogan said, if that's so, how could you understand it? Shuzan answered, I am just this. How about you, Osho? Hogan remarked, if there's even a hair's breadth of difference, heaven and earth are clearly separated. At that point, Shuzan bowed low. Appreciatory verse. A fly settles on a balance pan and it tilts. The 10,000 generation scale illuminates unevenness. Pounds, ounces, pennyweights, grains, measure exactly as you will. In the end, you will lose to my fixed indicator. So this line, if there's even a hair's breadth of difference, is from a longer poem. And several years ago, I did that. We went through the entire poem, section by section. It's Xing Xing Ming, or Faith in Mind. The great way is not difficult, it just abhors picking and choosing. And then a few lines later, if there's even a hair's breadth of difference, heaven and earth are clearly separated. So I've actually changed the word in the way I hear it in my own head, is I've changed the word of difference to othering. If there's a hair's breadth of othering, heaven and earth are clearly separated. So this, and I think it's just the way this koan is presented. It's interesting that he asks, the teacher Hogan asked his student, the administrator monk Shuzan, how do you understand this? It's a trick question, because understanding requires subject-object and response. So there's a separation in the question. And Shuzan attempts to stay out of that separation by simply repeating the question as a statement. So he just says, if there's he repeats it, if there's a hair's breadth. And so Hogan asks him again, how do you understand it? So he doesn't get caught the second time either. Because you can get caught in trying to explain something. Mansplain, womansplain, Zensplain. And it's if you go down that road of trying to work it out in your head, that's where it fails. That's where it falls short of the direct experience. And instead, Shuzan quite brilliantly tells how it is it shows up in his life, which is the point of all koan study, is what is the direct experience of this koan in your life. Not an explanation, not an expression. How does it show up? How is it showing up in this moment? And those are the live words that are called for in Zen. And his answer is, I am just this. Whatever this is what I am not separated from, what I'm not separate from. Be that happiness, sadness, anger, upsetness, confusion, just being this, just being in this. I wrote a new poem for my open mic group, and because I've literally been razzed because I go there and I work at the reception desk and I make sure people pay. Getting artists to pay money is not an easy thing to do. They're always trying to sneak past my desk. So I haven't gone up, and so people have basically called me on it, going, if you come to the open mic, and they like what I do. So I finally wrote a new poem, and in that poem I talk about, it's an obsession on death, because that's what I've been obsessing about recently. Because I was quite sure that Alzheimer's was going to run in my family, and so there was a new test out, which I took, which came back negative. So and the test is supposed to be 98% accurate, that if the test is negative, there's a 98% chance that you will not get Alzheimer's. And my immediate reaction to that test result was, well, that just means I have 98% chance of dying something else.
I thought you were going to say, well, that means I have a 2% chance of getting it, right?
Yeah, well, that too. 98% of dying something else and 2% chance of still getting Alzheimer's. So, what?
The odds are 1 in 1.
Yes, yeah, true. So it's that's what I wrote about in the poem, and I said, and I basically, the dramatic part of the poem is, planets will collide and turn each other to space dust. The black holes will rip galaxies apart. There's a 100% chance of your death. But before you go, you have this. You are this. You actualize thisness. So that's where this thisness that Shuzan is being. He is actualizing the practice, actualizing not being separate, actualizing not engaging in this hair's breadth of othering or difference, and just being what he is in that moment, just being in that moment as it is, and being in that moment as it being him being this, that as it is. So it is a very difficult thing to do and maintain and to realize, because othering is ubiquitous. We always want, because unfortunately it looks like there are others. We look out from ourselves and we see other people, other things, things that we think are out there, and realizing that we are always 100% of the time inextricably connected to everything is a difficult thing to recognize and to actualize on a moment-to-moment basis. But that is where, all of the mystics, all of the sages have come to that conclusion, that we are all one. That is across the board. There's not one religion at the mystical level that didn't come to that realization. So there is no separation. Any sort of separation, any sort of difference is truly not real. But trying to exercise reality, exercise that oneness as it is, that's the hard work. And and especially we're living in a world that is just being mobbed with all kinds, so much information and so much divisiveness that in this constant blaming other people for what's going on, it's hard not to get caught up in that, because sometimes the othering makes sense. It's like, I'm not that, it's your fault. So it's hard to take on the responsibility of what is going on in all of this oneness. Because if we're truly not separate from all this oneness, everything that is going right in the world or everything that's going wrong in the world, it's all us. And it's all our responsibility to take care of. Locally, certainly, we're not elevated to this level of Godhead, or you could think of it as being that, but I don't know how far that would take you. That's, but we have to take care of what is right there in front of us that needs to be taken care of, because we are where we are. We are just this, all this, but just thisness is not stuck in anywhere. It's in this constant flow and constant change. So there's no place to get stuck. There's no place not to be in this constant flow of this moment, of this nowness, this infinite now, as, who was the writer that used that term, infinite now? Wallace.
David Foster.
Thank you, David Foster. That was in his book. I actually read that book. I was like, it was hard to know, is this literature or garbage?
It's a thin line sometimes.
Yeah, because it was considered an accomplishment to actually sit down and read that tome. But it wasn't as difficult as Ulysses. Ulysses was, oh my God, all those Irish idioms just drove me insane. I had to stop reading the copy I bought and buy the annotated copy because I didn't know what half the words meant. Anyway, it was, this oneness is that's the work. That's the hard work that we do on the cushion. Because this oneness is not stuck in any place. It's in this constant flow, and it's what we always are. But yeah, it is much easier and much more socially acceptable to engage in the otherness, the othering, because the othering is easy, and popular in many ways. Trying to not be, one of my neighbors asked me yesterday, so what do you think about what's going on in the world?
Which spot?
And and I said to him, it's hard to maintain the fact that I'm not separate from everything that is going on in the world.
Yeah.
And that was my answer.
Well, you said that feeling is a sense of equanimity.
Yeah, but equanimity is not always comfortable. Equanimity has this very, sounds cushy, doesn't it? It's like, in balance.
Mm.
That's that. But equanimity means being equal with.
Yeah.
So being equal with the war in Iran, being equal with Israel and Gaza, being equal with Ukraine and Russia, being, it's easy to be equal with those things you like and that make you feel good. Not so easy to be equal with those things where people are clearly suffering. And to not other in those situations. Because not othering doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't conflict. And it doesn't mean that there aren't differences. Because oneness shows up in an infinite number of ways. There is no oneness does not mean uniformity or sameness. And that's because people, I think, conflate those two. If we're all one, we're all the same. And that is the farthest thing from what reality is. And I think of the advice I've given to some of my managers. A few of my managers would come into my office and complain, "I've only got 2 employees. Why do I have so much drama?" Because you have 2 employees. You don't have to have. It takes more than one person to be in the room for there to be conflict, for there to be, these perceived differences, and for one or the other to want the other to be different than the way they are. I don't remember what the comedian's name was, but his opening line to his sketch was, "Hi, my name is What Is, and I don't drink coffee, and everyone hates me for that." And so he would describe people's reaction to that. He goes, "What do you do? Just wake up?" So the coffee drinkers in the world think everyone should be, feeling as bad as they do before their first cup of coffee. But there are people in the world who don't feel that way. So how can you be with that person who is different from you? Because we're not all the same. But we are all one. We are all connected, inextricably connected. And no doubt we're discovering this connectedness on the quantum level. And I'm sure that eventually, when we finally resolve what dark energy and dark matter is, we'll suddenly realize that we're connected to everything in the universe, and we'll have scientific evidence to support that. I'm guessing, because I have no idea what astrophysics is. But it's just entertainment for me to listen to all these wonderfully highfalutin YouTube videos that make me feel smart. But not having this oneness requires the other part of the pawn, the not picking and choosing, not being attached to preferences. That's kind of the formula. If you want to get to the point of not creating differences, not creating those hair's breadth of othering, you have to not have any preferences for one thing or another. So the great way is not difficult. It only abhors picking and choosing, or only does not work when you have preferences. And who among us does not have preferences? So your preferences may change, depending on the time of day. But we all prefer some things over another. So it's that's a lot. It's a lot to ask. These quaint little quotes from these koans seem nice, and they seem, yes, if we could all just get along. But the work of that is who is Rodney King, who is he still alive? He's not alive.
Rodney King died at 47.
He did. How old was he?
47.
Wow. Yeah, he had a very.
The guy was a walking crime problem.
Yeah, he was.
Addicted.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. But his statement, after his beating, was, why can't we all just get along? And I thought, that's such a nice thing to think and to say, but the work of that is really where, that's the hard work. Just us all just getting along is very difficult, and that, the results of, I think they were all four of the police officers were acquitted, which sparked the LA riots in 1992. There's an example of how that happens, because obviously there was a preference to how we wanted that trial to end, and when we didn't get what we wanted, the entire city exploded.
Well, they didn't show the first 5 or 6 seconds of the videotape. I think when it was first shown on the news,
Yeah.
they cut the first 5 or 6 seconds, and that was him charging at the police like.
Yeah. I mean, he was not
an enraged person.
Yeah.
It was kind of more complicated than.
It was much more complicated than yeah, and and I think we all knew that, that he was not innocent by any stretch of the imagination. However, the beating continued even after they had him you restrain.
After it's tough.
Yeah. So, you know, where's the line in that effort? So hard to, and that's, you know, when we get caught up in the energy of those moments, you know, that's what drives, because people get caught up in the riot and the reaction and the anger and the feeling disrespected. So it's hard to do. It's a lot of work.
Well, but I don't think that being powerless or getting wrong necessarily means accepting injustice.
Okay.
It's manifest, you know, so, you know, I am just this, you know, also incorporates our outrage at that which is,
Yeah.
you know, deprivation of life and such.
Yeah. Well, being just this doesn't mean that it stays this.
Yeah.
So, you know, recognizing that there is injustice, and I am and I am part of that injustice. I am not separate from that injustice. Does not mean that you leave it in, you know, where it is.
Right.
And I think that's the mistake that people make, is that they think they're stuck at that. You know, I am one with all of this mess, which means you have to do something about the mess.
Right.
You know, it doesn't mean that you just lie down and enjoy the mess, because the mess doesn't stay stuck. You're not stuck. So sometimes it needs, you know, requires that you get up and clean it up, and you do something about the mess that is manifesting. Because we do tend toward, you know, I think human beings, you know, and maybe all animals, I don't know, tend to be messy. I know my cats are. They're so I have to clean up after them. So, and I have to clean up after myself. So if that's happening in my own house, how much more is it happening everyplace else in the world? I have to get up and do something about that. I can't just, I could just leave it there, and what would happen?
If you train your cats to clean it up themselves.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
Oh, yes, putting cats.
Yeah.
Train and cat is two words.
Yeah.
They're training.
Yeah, and I think that is part of the problem, is that we think that we can just train people to be the way we want them to be. And I had to, the medical director at the last hospital where I worked said something on a conference call, because it was COVID. We had to sanitize surfaces and doorknobs and, you know, everything that people were touching. And the question from one of the managers was, are we going to train people how to sanitize, how to clean? Because there was not enough housekeeping staff to sanitize everything, so everybody had to take that on as a responsibility. And his response to that question was, well, that's just common sense. And my immediate retort was, there's no sense that is common to everyone.
Yeah.
And if you want to hold people accountable, you have to, not only do you, from an HR perspective, you not only have to train them, you have to be able to prove that you trained them if you plan on disciplining them for not doing it. So, and there was this very, you know, difficult silence after that, because they hate HR for pointing that out to them.
There's very radical differences in what is clean.
There is.
Person.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so it's, you know, we can't just train our way out of it. We can't just, you know, regime change our way out of the problems that are in the world. You know, for some reason our politicians seem to think we can. And, you know, how many times, you know, in my lifetime, it's backfired. Vietnam first, and
Pretty much every one.
Yeah. What?
Pretty much every one.
Every single one has backfired, because, you know, culture will eat training for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are in this oneness, this very messy constantly changing oneness that is constantly manifesting. And we are just this. We are this mess. And this mess, it's not all messy. It's not all bad. We tend to focus on the bad news because there is one YouTube video that is good news. I intentionally, and he only puts out one video every month, so he needs to be on more often. I can't remember his name. He has a British accent. That's all I can remember. But he intentionally seeks out good news from around the globe and puts it in this YouTube video, and it's very nice to listen to, because and my delusion is that I think that good and bad is in balance. I think it is, and I think that there is as much good going on in the world as there is bad. But the good news does not, it doesn't make the news because it doesn't attract attention. Because I think we take the good news for granted. It's like, well, the good is supposed to be happening, the bad news is not. So we need to tell people about the bad, and that's fixes it. I don't know what it does, but
what is good and what is bad?
Yeah,
that's also the problem.
Yeah,
I'm sure we had a good discussion with Donald Trump about what's good and what's bad.
If you could get him to answer that question. Truly, and I certainly when things that we think are good, like rain, we think that rain is a good thing. For those of us who have homes and and roofs that don't leak, we appreciate the rain. Looking out from our dry spaces into it. It's a different story for someone who is unhoused. A different story for when there's too much rain. And what happens when there's too much of that. And certainly in LA, since we have no concept of how to drive in the rain, it becomes problematic very quickly. But so this constant good, bad, evil, you're not evil, or heavenly. This idea of other than it is where the suffering it lies, and not othering is where we really are. And that's what's real, is that we're not separate from any part of reality. We are just this all the time, every minute. That's the reality. And that's what the Zazen does, is it brings you back to that realization, that actualization of being just this. Stopping for a minute and just being your breath. Just being in that moment just as it is. Short-lived though that may be.
Yeah. I also find myself these days just, more and more questioning, what I know, what I don't know about things like Iran, for example. And so we're going to get to the culmination of not knowing as Muslims, because Muslims do. But I find that, there's a lot of, with Iran in particular, so many different emotions flowing around from different groups of people. Those that left, those that have called their country Persian instead of Iran. Those who are loyal to the administration. Those who simply don't want to be invaded by the U.S. There's just all these different aspects to it, and to me, it's very difficult to even form an opinion. They just don't know.
Yeah. And opining on issues is a form of separation of othering. Because it's a preference for one over the other usually. So how do we actualize not having preferences? And in that not having, and really being in that not having preferences, that is the way of not othering. Is the manifestation of not othering. Is things are just as they are, and I have to take care of those things just as they are. It doesn't mean that they stay that way or that I can just, zone out or go to sleep. It means I now have to pay attention to what that is and take care of what that is. And that's so. This koan, this particular, this is why I say it's the most important. It's the fundamental reason for this practice is not othering, not allowing ourselves to escape reality into our preferences and into making things, wanting to make things, wanting to separate from things that we don't like or don't want or don't want to take care of. That and recognizing that heaven and earth are not separate things, or heaven and hell are not separate things. That we create those by making these separations, and ultimately a lot of the separation is the separation from ourselves. Because if indeed you truly believe that we are one, then any separation from any part of that oneness is separation from yourself. And ultimately that's the source of all suffering, is that separation. That's the deepest cut, is when we do it to ourselves and then don't recognize it. And we call it, we think it's out there. We think it's someplace else. We think it's someone else. And in truth, the responsibility all comes home to roost, right where we are, right where we sit, and that's where our truth stands. That's where reality is right where we are. So how? And it is not in the understanding of it, as Hogan has to drive home with Shuzan, but Shuzan didn't take the bait. He didn't separate. Because twice he asked him, how do you understand this? So, trick question. And his answer, the first answer he gave, that was a good answer, but Hogan tests him further. Really? How do you understand it? The second time, it's like, okay, teacher, you think I'm going to fall for that? No, I am just this. How about you, Osho? Osho is a venerable teacher. And then Hogan very, very skillfully acknowledges his answer by repeating it. If there is even a hair's breadth of difference, heaven and earth are clearly separated. It's a very nice exchange between the two of them. Clearly two Zen masters at their best. It's very simple, and it drives it home. I mean, you repeat this line 4 times. It's like, if you're not getting it, here it is again. Do not make a hair's breadth of difference. Do not make a hair's breadth of othering. Do not separate yourselves from anything in the universe, because there is no separation. That separation is delusional, and it works. I mean, it's very divisive, and people become caught up in the upsetness of that blaming, and don't get much done as a result. They get caught up in the energy of that, and some of that seems to be intentional with what's going on, because if you keep people in that hamster wheel of blame, they can't focus on what needs to be done. They can't organize. They can't, talk back or fight or take care of anything because they're caught up in not taking responsibility. Because the minute you actualize this oneness, you now actualize, you have the responsibility to take care of it. And it's automatic, because we do it automatically. We're automatically empathic to what's going on. If you see someone, get hurt across the room, even though you had nothing to do physically with that, you react to it. It's like, ow, you feel their pain because you know what that would be if it was happening to you. And technically, because it's happening to what you're calling them, it is happening to you, which is why we are automatically empathic, which is why we respond when we see, I know that if I see a ball rolling out into the street, I stop because there's a kid that's coming after that ball. So I understand that is, not understand, but I know that the experience is, and I know that I had the privilege of growing up on a cul-de-sac, in which not a lot of traffic, but I know that when my ball rolled out into the street, I chased it, and had there been a car coming, I probably was not paying attention to what was happening. So now as an adult, I still connected to that kid that chased the ball that I rolled that I missed. So we know what that feels like. We know what that experience is. We respond to that human experience, or not just human, but even with animals. It's automatic for us, and we try not to do it because it's painful. It's hard to do that all the time. So that's happening to them. It's not happening to me or us, because it's that us and them. The cowboys. I was just talking about James Cameron the other day. The first Avatar. I spent all that money for the 3D glasses and going into that movie, and it was clear to me that there was an opportunity to shift the narrative, and Mr. Cameron goes right back to cowboys and Indians, and I was furious. I was like, I want my money back. I was just it was such a beautiful movie too. There was such a wonderful opportunity to shift that narrative, and he didn't do it. So I was maliciously happy that he lost the Academy Award to his ex-wife that year. I can't remember what movie she did, but yeah, both of them were up for Best Picture. She won. I was like, yeah, good. That's what you get. So there was my othering. It was James Cameron's fault. But we get caught up in so easily in the story of othering of us and them, of the cowboys and Indians. What's that storyline that is the hero, that is in every single story, so easily, and staying in the oneness, recognizing and actualizing that oneness. That's the hard work. That's the work of this practice, and a lot of people don't even bother doing it. So you are that much more more ahead of that game with your own suffering. Not that it's not that it's comparison to us and them, but you have the opportunity. You've given yourself that opportunity to recognize it and to take care of it. That's the main job. Questions, comments, anything from Zoom? Marcella, Kirk? we're all enlightened. Nothing more to say.
It's very plain when you explain something, you know, it seems, the explanation is very plain, clear.
So it seems.
Well, I mean, implementing is something else, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the explanation of
that's
it.
the question, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
It's great in principle.
In principle.
Now, in real life.
Okay, now what?
How?
After you now intellectually understand it, what do you do with that? And that's the ongoing question in Zen. How will you use it? How will you apply it? How will you manifest it on a daily basis, hourly, minute to minute, hourly basis? What does it look like to be just this?
When you say that, I think it means to be okay in the middle of these messy situations and just be ourselves as present as we can be and take care of it as best we can. But not to separate ourselves, just to stay in the middle of it all. We are in much messy situations.
Yeah.
All of us. I know I am.
Yeah. Well, we're all there. And it's always messy. There's some messes we prefer to, and that's there's the preferences. If it was a president that we liked doing what Trump is doing, would we be having this cognitive dissonance, with the administration?
Well, Trump said he'll know when the war is over when he feels it in his bones. So I think that's not separating himself completely.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
That's an interesting, standard, an interesting way to gauge.
Or somebody tells him
Yeah.
what your bones are saying.
Yeah, it's time for you to feel it in your bones, not now. So, yeah. And certainly, trying to look at things a little bit more objectively is hard to do. It's hard to remove those things. I've had to, do that with the tariffs, because certainly the trade deficit with China was out of control. It's been out of control for a long time. Basically their state-sponsored manufacturing, drives a lot of that, that trade deficit, not just with the United States, but with a lot of the world. And so, were the tariffs a totally bad thing? Did that help to kind of balance out the world? Certainly, the Iranian people have been persecuted by their own government for a long time. This is not news. It's not new news, and is this idea of trying to save them or give them the opportunity to overthrow their own government, is that a bad thing?
If that's really what's going on.
Well, and right. Certainly, that's what you're saying. Is it the truth or the whole truth?
Yeah.
So trying to take that step back and check my own biases, because it's like every other minute I have to check it because it's something new. I guess I've become, what's the group of, is it the libertarians who just don't want any government? I at least want a government that isn't in the news every 5 minutes.
We used to have that.
We used to have that, and it was bloody and gory. We developed states in the Middle East for a reason.
Yeah.
Religious states originally.
Yeah.
That's basically what it was.
So it's good. Yeah. So.
Well, it acted as a restraint for a lot of people's impulses.
Yeah.
Better angels of our nature. We used to be much more violent than we are now.
This is true. It's very true.
Recent thing that we consider.
Yeah, it is very recent in our evolution that we've actually, we're not just killing each other just because we can.
Yeah. Is that true? mean,
I think that
there's a bunch of girls in school in Iran who disagree with you.
I'm sure. You know, it's very situational. You know, and when we look at the United States, it has always been this experiment, because this is one of, well, at least in modern history, the most racially, ethnically, and culturally mixed. At least on the coasts, you know, probably in the middle of the country is a little less so.
Not anymore. Mixed in New York City and all the cities.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So, and that doesn't happen. I mean, I remember the first time I went to Japan. This is 2002. I'm landing in Japan, and I'm looking around, going, "Wow, there's a lot of Japanese people." And I'm suddenly realizing I'm used to seeing a mixture of people rather than a rather homogenous, you know, group of looking people. And I'm realizing that's unusual in the world. In most countries, most people look somewhat alike. So yeah, we're, you know, there are problems, obviously, constantly. Are we better, you know, sometimes, and are we worse sometimes? Do we still have a lot of work to do all the time? All the time. So here we are, doing the work. So thank you for doing the work. Thank you, everybody. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them. The dharmas are boundless. I vow to master them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to attain it. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them. The dharmas are boundless. I vow to master them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to attain it. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them. The dharmas are boundless. I vow to master them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to attain it. Okay, a few announcements. I'm sure there'll be a Dharma talk tomorrow from Yokoji. I will miss it because I've got tea ceremony this weekend and next weekend. Yeah, just, you know, tea people. So I'll miss those, but listen to those if you can. So the date next week, and I'll send out an email to everybody. We've been displaced, so there will be no live gathering. It'll be all on Zoom because the space is being used. That's the 21st, that's right. Next week is the 21st. Then the week after that, the 28th.
Well, that one's not clear because she wrote to me about the 29th.
Right.
So I'm not sure if she made a mistake or not. Well, she made a mistake clearly. Either the ceremony is on the 28th or it's on the 29th and she got the days confused. So I'll have to check with her.
Okay, so we might be displaced on the 28th, or we'll be in a small room.
Maybe.
Because
her email said the 29th.
it did.
But we're not here on the 29th. That's a Sunday.
That's a Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll check on that one. But what's happening on the 28th anyway is the marathon.
Yeah.
So get her early because you may have to park far away and walk, or zoom in. That's probably the easier option, because that's always and it's a short-lived barrier, because by the time we're done, the marathon's over. But, because they start early.
Could be a straggler or two.
Yeah, it could be a straggler too. I've seen that. There are people who are gonna finish that marathon. That would be me. I'd be walking. After the first, I might be able to do 10 miles with a few little training, but 26, is it 26, marathon's 26 miles?
Yeah. Well, they have different ones now. The actual marathon is 26 point
Yeah.
something, but
26.2 miles,
Yeah.
6.2.
40 kilometres.
Huh?
40 kilometres, I think, or 42 kilometres.
I don't know what they're doing. I don't think they're doing 26 miles.
26.2 miles.
Here?
They might be, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
If it's full marathon, it's 26.2.
Yeah. I think that there's some people who don't do the whole thing, but
Half marathons are available.
they are. Okay, that's nice. I did when I had knees that operated, I did love running. I usually ran 3 miles every day, but my knees just can't do that anymore. So, other than that, so we're also contemplating moving back to a space in Long Beach. We're taking a look at that. So the description of the place sounds idyllic. So we'll see if that is things that are too good to be true.
Well, they'd like for us to be there as opposed to suffering our existence.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. So yeah, we'll check it out. We'll keep everybody informed. We've been here since when?
3 or 4 years.
Yeah, because this was kind of a post-COVID, post-COVID knee-jerk reaction because we were displaced from the church where we were sitting, the Unitarian church near the college, because they were using those rooms as Montessori school for the kids, and there was no vaccine for the kids, they didn't want us in the room, so completely understandable. And for a while during COVID, we were purely online. As a matter of fact, that's when we started online, because we didn't have Zoom before COVID. And the Zoom is stuck, so it's kind of nice. We have both, but yeah, it might be time. But we've been, not in Long Beach.
Our name.
Our name, but we didn't change our name.
We have to be flexible.
Yeah. So this place is back in Long Beach, Belmont Shores,
Belmont Heights.
Belmont Heights. So, well, yeah.
So it's a wellness center that somebody has converted one of the old homes in Belmont Heights, and this is referred to us by Dharma Shakti from the Revolution. She says it's a gorgeous space, and I talked to the guy who runs it, the guy named Reed, and we have hot, cold plunges, saunas, a meditation room, a yoga room, some kind of therapy, like Reiki room, a walking area, a garden. So let's see. I'm concerned about parking, where we do walking, meditation, and storage. And then also we need a room for Tyson. So we'll see what. He was very excited about having us come over because he's thinking there'll be some cross pollination with these groups. So it's been a while since we had someone who said, "Yeah, we want you to come."
Yeah.
Was money mentioned at all? Or?
Yeah, he did mention. I mean, they're fairly pricey, but I told him we here's what we pay over here, and he didn't flinch about that. I think he understands we're not, able to do the kinds of things that people who are paying for wellness services can afford. That's not us. But it didn't deter him at all.
Great. No, then maybe they could, if they use this as part of their wellness.
Yeah.
Come and do meditation.
Yeah.
As part of their wellness regimen. That could be, defray the cost
Yeah.
that we would normally have to pay.
Yeah. So let's see.
Yeah. Cool. So we'll keep you informed. Our lease runs up here in June, is it?
Did you?
Yeah. So whether we, so we still have this space. They want to move us to the smaller space, but we still have. They're willing to renew us.
Is that
But, yeah, it is kind of a
If I had one.
yeah. Okay. Any other announcements? No. All right. Thanks everybody for helping clean up. Thanks, Zoomers. Good to have you. Take care.
Yeah.